Maybe it's my ignorance that I don't know the whole story, but I think it is such a senseless thing to take them over there and slaughter them.
And we just pray that Danny will be sent home to us, not in a bag. So we saw all the pictures on, and I know it's news and they have to show it, but it's so hard for the families to see this, because you just keep thinking, is that my brother? Could it be him?
A mother grieves, a sister waits. Good evening, this is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting. The Defense Department now says the number of confirmed dead among U.S. servicemen in Beirut is 191. It's believed that not since the Korean War have American military forces suffered that many casualties in a single strike on one place in one day. It is the highest one-day death toll for the American military since February 23, 1969, when 208 U.S. servicemen were killed in fighting throughout Vietnam. In Beirut, at the rubble that once was the U.S. Marine Command Post, Marines today were digging out, one by one, the victims of the suicide truck bombing. Tom Fenton is there.
The BLT, as the Marines called it, took the equivalent of a direct hit by a one-ton bomb. The upper floors collapsed on sleeping Marines and sailors like a triple-decker sandwich. Most never knew what hit them. How the Marines' defense perimeter could have been penetrated is another question. Part of the answer is that the Marines rely on the inexperienced Lebanese army to check vehicles in the area around the base. Today, all kinds of vehicles were being waved right through without the slightest verification. Almost anyone could have driven right up to the Marine perimeter, just as the suicide truck did yesterday morning. After turning into the parking lot, it swerved around a Marine sentry post and crashed through the gates heading straight for the building. The truck avoided a Marine who dove in front of it. Then it drove through a blast shield. 5 shots were fired at it as it went through the front door and into the lobby, where it exploded. The Lebanese army had warned the Marines they might be attacked.
Many times, and the last time was 4 days ago.
You told them, what did you tell them exactly?
I told them you will be the target of terrorist attack.
The Marines insist that their precautions were more than adequate.
We took every reasonable precaution and some to prevent terrorist acts as such. As most of you have seen around our area, we have put large barricades. We put some of our heavier rolling equipment to preclude this.
The question remains, what are the Marines doing in Lebanon? They're here to prop up a government that still controls only part of Beirut and none of the rest of the country. And they're being told to do it by sitting at Beirut Airport, where they've become prime targets. Marines on the airport perimeter, within easy range of Muslim snipers, find this passive role both dangerous and frustrating. But today, their minds were on the friends they had lost and on their families back home.
Send our love. That's all I can do. Tell them we're alive.
Rosters of the living were being drawn up today, but the records of the dead were buried with the rubble. Out of the confusion came stories of miraculous escapes. One of the most amazing escapes was that of Marine Private Robert Calhoun. He was on top of the building when it exploded beneath him.
I'm not sorry I came here. I'm just sorry that something like this happened. I think that we have to be here, and I don't think like something like this should deter us from what we're doing, but it's sure as God's shame that we did something like this.
A mile away, the French were digging out their dead. It was a measure of their concern that the president of France, François Mitterrand, made a surprise trip to Beirut. He visited the scene where the second blast brought an 8-story building down on some 100 French paratroopers. During his visit, voices could still be heard beneath the rubble. The French building was even more lightly protected than the American base. Tonight, the American defenses have been beefed up. Heavy vehicles have been used to block access roads. It would be more difficult now to carry out a similar attack on the Marines. But this catastrophe will not soon be forgotten. In the annals of the Marine Corps, there have been few losses that were so tragic. Tom Fenton, CBS News, Beirut.
There were also many Americans wounded in yesterday's horrifying bombing. The latest count, 75 serious enough to be evacuated from Beirut, an undetermined number treated in the Lebanese capital. Those evacuated on military hospital planes were taken to West Germany as well as to Italy and Cyprus. At the Rhine-Main Air Base in West Germany today, the first of the U.S. Marine replacements for the dead and wounded in Beirut made a brief stopover before heading on to the Lebanese capital. Said one Marine about to begin a second tour of duty in Beirut, "I don't particularly want to go back again." Said another, "Yes, I'm a little scared." The explosion in Beirut shattered the worlds of some American families beyond repair. And Bruce Morton reports tonight that in today's awful silence, life comes down to a matter of words, the names of survivors, and the dreaded phrase, "We regret to inform you."
For families all over America, this was the longest day. For Jean Giblin and her sons and daughters, with two of those sons, Timmy and Donnie, with the Marines in Lebanon, it was the longest day. 24 hours and no word. 36, 40. For John and Iris Summers, each hour without seeing the official Marine Corps car come up the drive was a small gain against disaster.
When you don't see the car coming, the longer you don't see the car coming up, the better you feel. You understand what I'm saying?
For some, the waiting ended badly, with the news of death in the family. Guillermo and Sila San Pedro lost their son.
I am proud of my son, and he was proud to be a Marine. He died for his country.
Antonio Relvas lost a brother.
I don't know, it's crazy, it's all.
For Eloise Hines of Forest City, Iowa, good news, sort of. Her son James was wounded, but will live.
Well, when I saw two men standing outside my door, I think I just about died right there. It was awful until they said, he was wounded. They had the good news that he was wounded.
And for some, it was good news all the way. Children at the San Antonio school where Dorothy Calhoun works are writing letters to her son Robert. He made it.
And when the phone rang, my husband was in the bedroom and answered the phone. And my daughter and I were in the other room. And we heard, he is, and we went in and I saw tears coming down my husband's face. And we knew he was okay. And what we felt was God answered our prayers.
But for the Giblins in Providence and many others, the longest day goes on.
Because our Blessed Mother knew exactly what you're going through when she lost the child, Jesus.
There is comfort, but no word of whether Timmy and Donnie are alive.
Protect them.
Okay, good.
A poet wrote once that after despair comes wisdom through the awful grace of God. Across the United States today, there was little wisdom yet, and much grieving. Bruce Morton, CBS News, New York.